Hello, class, and welcome to another week of news writing. For this week, we are doing Unit 8, Storytelling and Feature Techniques, and learning about broadcast news writing. Before we get started, going over the chapters, just to give you an update, I am in the process of grading your Unit 5, I believe, interviews. And it's going good so far. I've been noticing a couple of things, so I figure I'd take some time to talk about it. One thing is last name. So when you talk about someone, you give them your full name, or you're writing about someone, you give the full name. And then when you refer to them again in the body of your piece, you can refer to them by the last name only. That's kind of the standard. Another thing was the birth date, and I know that was my fault. I had put in the directions to ask about someone's exact birth date. You don't have to do that, just the age is fine. So you could say Tom Magnarelli, 36, and that's the age, and that's fine. And you could just refer to me as Magnarelli says, or said this, did that in your piece. And then just remember that it's not about you, and to focus on your interview subject. I remember when I was in college, I made the mistake. I was interviewing a professor, and I was trying to get him to talk about some topic. And I was telling him about what I thought about the issue to try to get it out of him, to talk more and be easy. And he stopped me and he just said, nobody cares what you think. When you're a news reporter, it's all about your interview subject. And I was taken aback, but that advice always stuck with me, and it always sort of put me in my place and reminded me that it's not about me. It's about the person that I am interviewing. And so these are just this is just some helpful advice for you guys to think about as you continue on in your future and do stories. So let's get started. I'm gonna share my screen. So with our Unit 8, students will learn descriptive and narrative writing techniques, how to apply storytelling to news and feature stories, how to write basic broadcast stories, how to learn the importance of focus and learn broadcast style. We only have one assignment this week. It'll be due on Sunday. It's a broadcast writing assignment that we'll talk about a little bit later. These chapters are kind of lengthy. I think there's around 50 pages that you have to read. So really just take this week to read your textbook and read these two chapters. And then you just have one assignment this week. So why don't we go over the chapters? We're going to spend more time on chapter 11, broadcast news writing, but I think this is a good chapter, chapter 10, storytelling and feature techniques as well. So I want you to take the time and read it. This is more so like your long format storytelling. So I think it's good for you to read and to familiarize yourself with. But we are in this class trying to like get really just the basics down. But I think when you do get the basics down and you are able to do more longer form pieces, this is definitely really good stuff in here to think about. We're just not going to spend as much time on this as right now. I just have some things that I found in this chapter for you guys to keep in mind. The writing style called narrative writing is a form of dramatic storytelling that reconstructs the events as though the reader were witnessing them as they happened. Narrative writing is a dramatic account of a fiction or nonfiction story. Writing in this style requires thorough reporting and descriptive detail. Dialogue also enhances the storytelling. Keep in mind that descriptive detail. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Narrative writing for news often reconstructs events to put the reader on the scene. The sources are like characters who relive the events as they happen, but the story must include the basic factual elements of news. The 5 W's: who is character, what is plot, when is chronology, why is motive, and where is place. The who, what, when, where, and why. Good writers are good readers. Reading to write. It talks a little bit, goes in a little bit about that in here. I thought this was interesting. During the reporting process, you don't always know what details you will need when you write a story. Ask, what were people thinking, saying, hearing, smelling, wearing, and feeling? Be precise. Take notes when you hear dialogue that could enhance your story. I really like this diagram here. And like I said before, this is about feature length stories. This is for more so longer format. It's not the hard news, quick news that we are gonna definitely talk about in the broadcast news writing chapter. This is more like the long form stuff, but there's some interesting things to take away in here for sure. To help you gather specific details like this descriptive writing that we're talking about. This is the ladder of details. Envision a ladder with rungs leading from general to specific. Leading from general to specific. Start with the broadest noun and take it to the most specific level. So if you look at the ladder, we're going to have this in a story. You start with dog at the bottom. Then you go up one. What kind of dog? Lhasa Apso. And then what's the color of this kind of dog? A tan and white Lhasa Apso. Lhasa Apso named Joe. Lhasa Apso named for Joe DiMaggio. So we get to the most specific at the top of the ladder, and you'll see why they wanted all of this description in here. A tan and white Lhasa Apso named Joe ran onto the baseball field and interrupted the game when he stole the ball. It was only natural. After all, his namesake was Joe DiMaggio. So you can see the description of this dog makes you able to visualize it more so than just saying a dog ran onto the baseball field. We've got a lot more description in it, and it enhances the storytelling. There's writing, there's theme, more descriptive techniques. So too much description will clutter a story, and too little will leave the reader blank. So you got to find the middle. How much is enough? First, decide whether the story lends itself to description of the scene or person. Description, like every element in either fiction or nonfiction, should advance the meaning of your story. It would be a good idea to describe the brown house in more detail, only if those details are important. Description never should be there for decoration. It never should be there because you are showing off. And when you do describe, you should never use more words than you need to trigger that mental image readers already have in their minds. So some techniques for good descriptive writing: avoid adjectives, write specific detail with vivid nouns and verbs, but avoid the modifiers. When you use adjectives, you run the risk of inserting your opinions into the story. The adjective is the author's opinion of what is going on, no more. If I write a strong man came into the room, that only means he is strong in relation to me. Unless I've established myself for the reader, I might be the only fellow in the bar who was impressed by the guy who came in. It is better to say a man entered, he was holding a walking stick, and for some reason he now broke it into like a twig. Of course, this takes more time to narrate. So adjectives bring on quick, tell you how to live writing. Advertising thrives on it. A super efficient, silent, sensuous 5-speed shift. Put 20 adjectives before a noun and no one will know you are describing a turd. Moving on, use analogies. A good analogy compares a vague concept to something familiar to readers. This is talking about a guy's weight. Now 891 and climbing. That's more than twice as much as Sears'